Hi everyone, welcome to this presentation. Thank you very much for being here and for your interest in this topic. My name is Tiago Guardia, and today in this presentation I'll be talking about the pharmacology of Beehive air therapy. So, Beehive air therapy is this such a unique, eccentric, I would say, and very interesting therapeutic method that has been developed over the past decades by beekeepers in which we breathe the air of beehives. After breathing the air of beehives, people report to experience an incredible sense of well-being, and this therapy has been used to treat different diseases of the respiratory system, including more recently many successful cases from people suffering from late symptoms of COVID-19. And this therapy has been also used to boost the immune system and even help people suffering from depression and anxiety. So the air of beehives has such a rich and attractive aroma that is almost like a massage coming from our olfactory sense and lungs that spreads through our entire being. The air of beehives is made of hundreds of volatile compounds that comes from honey, propolis, royal jelly, wax, all the products of the hive, from the body of the bees and from the medicinal plants surrounding the apiary that bees brings to the hive. In addition to that, just the fact of giving ourselves the opportunity to experience some time in contact with nature, contemplating the environment, hearing the buzzing sounds of the bees, also contributes to our mental health and well-being. Nowadays, there are already scientific studies that confirm that staying in contact with nature help us stay healthy and happy. Although during the beehive air therapy, we usually don't have direct contact with the bees, which keeps normally going in and out from the hive while we stay inside the building, we also get the benefit from contemplating nature out there and, as I said, from hearing the buzzing sounds of the bees. And when we breathe the air of the hive, with the support of those adequate ventilation and inhalation equipments that were specially designed for that, we fill our lungs with an incredible combination of volatile compounds that end up being distributed to our entire body through our bloodstream. The question is, why we feel so good when we breathe the air from beehives? How this air might be helping treat diseases and recover our health. What are the main components of the beehive air and what are the pharmacological effects? What are the factors involved in the pharmacology of beehive air therapy that's good to be aware of? These are the topics that I'm going to cover in this presentation. The interest in beehive air therapy is gradually increasing all over the world. The technique was developed in Europe, but today we have specialized clinics in many countries around the globe. We encountered out there different types of facilities and structures. Beekeepers, naturopathic clinics, luxurious spas, and even in Airbnb, people are starting to offer beehive air therapy, whether for tourism or therapeutic purposes. In addition to performing beehive air therapy with those ventilation and inhalation equipments, there's also what people call the bee saunas, which are those cabins or bee houses in which the air of the beehives keeps circulating in the environment and people just stay there relaxing while getting the benefits from breathing the air of the beehives and having that experience, which also include interacting with the biofield of nature and the bees. And as this practice gains popularity and we start to hear more often the positive comments and testimonials from patients, it also becomes increasingly important that we start to scientifically investigate where those benefits come from and what the therapeutic mechanisms involved in this therapy are. This way, we will be able to upgrade the status of this therapy from a method with successful anecdotal cases to a science-based therapy with best practices and guidelines. And the idea of regulating and making behavior therapy a science-based practice is not only to gain the acknowledgement from the medical community, but to allow us to have a better understanding of its effects and applications. This way, we'll be able to help even more people in an effective and safe way. And the professionals involved with this therapy are already doing this through research and development. Through research, we are starting to know more about the chemical composition of the beehive air. We are also starting to investigate the pharmacological properties of the volatile compounds of the air of the beehive. And that is a consistent step that we are starting to give. We are also working on developing clinical trials. That is also a key step in this process of regulating this therapy. And through development, professionals and startups are starting to offer specialized equipments with medical license and very beautiful and functional buildings and settings. As the technique evolves, we are also planning on offering training and developing best practices, guidelines, and standardized therapeutic protocols. And by continuing to follow this path, we will be able to strategically make behavior therapy recognized and validated by healthcare authorities, and so we can safely expand the offerings of this therapy to help more and more people. And to make sure we are all at the same page during this presentation, before I start talking about the pharmacology of behavior therapy, I'd like to clarify some basic concepts of pharmacology. So pharmacology is a study of drugs in all their aspects, and it studies how drugs interact with other molecules in the body and how they affect the body. And when I say drug in this context, I mean drug is any chemical substance used in the treatment, cure, prevention, or diagnosis of disease, or used to otherwise enhance physical or mental well-being. The two areas of pharmacology are pharmacodynamics and pharmacokinetics. Pharmacodynamics studies the effects of a drug on the body, and the pharmacokinetics studies the effects of the body on a drug. So pharmacodynamics discusses the mechanisms of action of substances, how the molecules of a drug interact with the receptors of the cells, and how the effects of a drug are produced. And I bet this is what we are mainly interested in this presentation, right? We want to know the pharmacological effects of the beehive air and how this therapy produces its effects. Then pharmacokinetics discusses the absorption, distribution, metabolism, and excretion of chemicals from the body. And I will be discussing with you how some of these concepts apply to behavior therapy in this presentation. So based on the principle of drug action, these are the main steps that we need to care about when we want to evaluate or optimize the pharmacological effects of behavior therapy. Step 1 is administration, which includes dosage and route of administration. Step 2 is pharmacokinetic phase. It's the pharmacokinetic phase in which we might evaluate how the molecules we inhale from the beehive are absorbed, distributed, metabolized, and eventually eliminated from the body. But of course, before being eliminated, in between being distributed and metabolized, there is the effect of the molecules from the beehive air might produce in your body. According to the principle of modern science, having a better understanding of the effects that the molecules of the beehive air have in our body is what we need to know to be able to promote this therapy effectively and safely. In this presentation, I'm going to focus on dosage, a little bit on route of administration, and of course, the pharmacological effects of the molecules of the beehive air. So let's start with dose. The importance of studying dose is simple, right? Usually, dose is correlated with the strength of the effect or the benefit we get from a particular substance. And one of the factors that influence the dose we take in a session of behavior therapy is the concentration of the volatile compounds inside the beehive. And the concentration of the volatile compounds inside the hive depends on a variety of factors that include, but probably are not restricted to, the following. Bees, so how strong is the hive? Plants, what kind of plants are available in the surroundings of the apiary? An apiary fully surrounded by medicinal plants will provide a richer and more beneficial air than, let's say, for example, an apiary that's only surrounded by green grass. By the way, healthy bees and an apiary located far from pesticides are essential requirements for the practice of beehive air therapy. Without these, please don't even try it because it can be harmful. So, season and time of day also might affect the concentration of the volatile compounds inside the hive. Duration of the beehive air therapy session is also important. If we keep inhaling the air from one single hive for a long period of time, the concentration of volatile compounds there will decrease. In a general beehive air therapy session, the session is made of 30 minutes, in which the person inhales the air from the hive for 15 minutes, and then 15 minutes from another hive. After the session is finished, we recommend waiting at least 30 minutes for someone else start to inhale the air from the hive that has been used previously. So the concentration of the volatile components in that hive can increase again. And the second factor that affects dose in beehive air therapy is the volume of the beehive air we take into our lungs, right? And depending on the way we breathe, the dose of volatile components we get can be very different. Now, let's have a look at this graph here. Tidal volume here represented by this narrow yellow region here is the volume that enters and leaves with each breath from a normal quiet inspiration to a normal quiet expiration. So basically, this is the shallow way we normally breathe in our normal daily life. On average, the tidal volume is 500 milliliters. But respiration is such an interesting function of our body because it is controlled by the autonomic nervous system, so we don't need to care about it if you don't want. But we can also breathe consciously, and if we want, we can play with it and start taking deep breaths, for example. Or we can hold the air inside our lungs for a little longer. There's a whole series of different conscious breathing techniques that can be applied to help us get the most benefits from beehive air therapy. But just by taking deeper breaths, which is so simple to do for most of us, we can take more molecules inside our lungs from the beehive. As we can see here, inspiratory reserve volume represented by the orange area there is the extra volume that we can breathe above the tidal volume from normal quiet inspiration to maximum inspiration. On average, this extra volume is 2.5 liters, which means that the inspiratory capacity, which is represented by this green area over here, is on average 3 liters. Now we see that by just taking deeper breaths during the behavior therapy, we can easily increase the volume of the air we breathe from the beehives from 500 milliliters up to 3 liters, which means a dose up to 6 times higher per breath. In my trainings, I recommend people playing with the whole inspiratory capacity here during the behavior therapy session, which means deep inspirations and shallow and slow expirations. Some breath holds can also be included during the behavior therapy sessions, depending on the purpose and need. There are also other types of preparatory breathing exercises that combines different patterning of inspirations and expirations, so deep, shallow, slow, and fast, in addition to some breath holds that I recommend people to practice along the week and also right before the behavior therapy session starts. And performing those preparatory breath work using the vital capacity of our lungs here can be quite helpful, not only for the purpose of behavior therapy. It has been shown already that regular breath work and conscious breathing practice provide many benefits to both our physical and mental health. And of course, for the purpose of getting the most benefit from the behavior therapy session, those preparatory breathing exercises are very helpful for strengthening and stretching the muscles involved in the function of breathing. This way, we gain resistance, so we can easily sustain the process of conscious breathing and exploring our full inspiratory capacity during the behavior therapy session. Over and above this idea of absorbing more molecules from the hive, practicing conscious breathing during the behavior therapy session is also very important, because along this process we get into a meditative state, which itself is very beneficial for our health. In addition to that, while experiencing that meditative state during the behavior therapy session, we can dive into more advanced practices in which we might consciously absorb the healing energy of the beehive, which is deeply connected to the healing energy of the universe, and then consciously distribute the powerful healing energy within our body and within our being. My final message here on this is that the way we breathe and focus our minds during the beehive therapy session can make a huge difference in terms of amplifying the benefits we get from absorbing the therapeutic compounds of the air of beehive. Soon I'll be preparing a presentation that's all about it. And finally, last but not least, the equipment we use also might affect the dose of the molecules we get from the beehive. Nowadays, we have equipments with medical license standards with function, for example, with heated tubes that prevents the molecule from the hive from sticking to the wall of the tube, thereby delivering more molecules to the mask where we breathe. The masks also have a valve that prevents the air from our expiration to get back into the hives, which is an essential requirement for this therapy. Pollen filter and mesh that prevents the bees from getting into the system are also important items as well. And finally, an equipment that is silent and do not transfer the vibrations of the ventilation system to the structure of the hive is also important, so the bees do not get disturbed. And since the great variability of the air of the hive comes from the volatile compounds released by the body of the bees, we certainly don't want to disturb the bees. And now, before diving into the pharmacological effects of the molecules of the beehive air, let's talk briefly about the routes of administration, which is a relevant process to be aware of when working with the beehive air therapy. So basically, in pharmacology, we study a lot of routes of administration. Obviously, inhalation is the main route we think of when we think of Beehive air therapy. However, the nasal route also plays a role in this therapy as well. I won't dive very deep here, and I just want to give a brief description of each one of those routes of administration. So the main one is inhalation, and in this route, the molecules from the beehive air travel through the upper and lower respiratory tract. Then in the lungs, more precisely in the alveoli of the lungs, the molecules are absorbed into the bloodstream and then distributed in the body. In the nasal route, the molecules we breathe are absorbed through the thin mucous membrane that lines the nasal passages. And again, once absorbed, the molecules enters the bloodstream and then distributed in the body. In addition to that, the other very important factor that makes the nasal route very special is that the thin nasal that in the nasal cavity there is the olfactory bulb that provides a direct connection to the central nervous system. Probably that incredible sense of well-being that we get from breathing the air of the beehive comes partially from this direct stimulation of the olfactory bulb, olfactory bulb there, which is connected to the brain. So at this point in this presentation, we have covered already a dosage and routes of administration. Now let's get into the pharmacological effects of the beehive air. In this presentation, I'm going to go over the pharmacological effects of each one of the molecules of the beehive air that have been identified previously by L. Wahed and colleagues in the paper entitled Unrevealing the Beehive Air Volatile Profile. And before I start doing that, I just want to say that yes, I found some very, very interesting results there. However, I still consider this material I'm going to present as a preliminary list coming from a preliminary analysis. Of course, in this analysis I only use science-based information, but this field of biochemistry is wide, deep, and complex. So for example, each one of those components have synonyms, so different names to refer to the same molecule. Some of those molecules have been better studied than others, so it's easier to find their references in comparison to the ones who have been less studied. So please look at this list as a first step towards mapping the chemical composition of the beehive air with their pharmacological properties. I am establishing some collaborations with researchers in the field of pharmacology, and hopefully we'll be able to provide a complete systematic analysis soon. With that being said, let's dive into the pharmacological effects of the components of the beehive air. So in this table, we have a list with the compound name, chemical class, natural source, and effects and use. I will go over some of the effects and uses of each one of those components, but the table will stay available in case you want to carefully evaluate the natural source and all the other information later on. So component number 1, N-caprylic acid, has been reported with antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal, and anti-inflammatory properties. Number 2, nonanoic acid is a potent antifungal agent, and it has been reported with a potential application for the treatment of seizures. Number 3, geranic acid has demonstrated antifungal activity, a strong antibacterial properties that is superior to the most common standard of care topical antiseptics in current use. Number 4, dodecanoic acid is helpful in the attenuation of oxidative stress and may have a synergistic effect in a formula to help fight against microorganisms. Additionally, it has potential use in ophthalmic treatments. Number 6, tetradecanoic acid has antioxidant and antimicrobial properties and has been used in cosmetic and topical medicinal preparations. Number 6, isopropyl alcohol is a carrier, antibacterial, and solvent for skincare lotions. Its inhalation is used as treatment for nausea and vomiting. Number 7, 3-hexanol finds its application as flavoring agent or adjuvant. Number 8, cyclooctanol is a promising therapeutic target for the treatment of cardiovascular diseases related to abnormally high aldosterone level. Number 9, DAC2N1-ol finds its uses in a wide range of fragrances. Number 10, benzenaldehyde has antimicrobial and antioxidant properties. Number 11, benzeniacetaldehyde is used for the preparation of fragrances as well as flavors. Number 12, nonanol has antifungal activity and it is the component of many essential oils that have antibacterial properties. Number 13, decanol has been reported to affect brain waves by olfactory stimulation. You see, this is because there is that direct connection between the olfactory bulb in the nasal cavity and the brain that I mentioned earlier. Additionally, decanol has also antifungal properties. Number 14, 5-hydromethylfurfural. This is the famous HMF that we don't usually want to see in honey because it indicates overheating or poor storage. However, the HMF is a component of the LPP extract, which is used in the traditional Korean medicine. And the LPP extract holds significant promise as a nasal inhalant for the treatment of asthmatic airway disease. So look how interesting this one is as well. So number 15, Z2-decenol. I didn't find any report on therapeutic application for it in this preliminary analysis. So number 16, E-cinnamaldehyde has antifungal properties and it is the component of essential oils used in the treatment of depression. Number 17, methylsalicylate is commonly used in dermatology drugs with analgesic, anti-inflammatory, and antibacterial effect. Number 18, 2-ocylacetate. I didn't find any report on therapeutic application for this one as well in this preliminary analysis. So the same thing for number 19, E2-decenylacetate. I didn't find any application for this as well in this preliminary analysis. Number 20, E-anatol. Look how interesting this one is. It is found in many essential oils and it has a great variety of therapeutic effects. It's antioxidant, antimicrobial, spasmolytic, antinociceptive, immunomodulatory, neuroprotective, and others. Number 21, decane. I didn't find any report on the therapeutic application for this one as well, but its derivatives have a potential as anti-tumor agents. Number 22, tridecane has antibacterial properties. Number 23 is a molecule that could not be recognized in the analysis. Number 24, hexadecane has surfactant properties. Number 25, octadecane has been used in lubricants. Number 26, 9-nonadecane is used in fragrances and cosmetics. Number 27, 2-nonanone has a potential use as flavoring agent. Number 28, pyranone has been used against parasites. Number 29, 2-decanone is used in perfumes. Number 30, 9-hydroxy-2-nonanone. I didn't find any report on the therapeutic application for this as well in this preliminary analysis. Number 31, Z-granilacetone is used as flavoring agent and in fragrancy. Number 32, N-butyl nitrite has vasodilatory properties and has been employed medically to treat heart diseases. It also helps stimulant drug users stop from feeling lousy after the effect of the drug is gone. Number 33, eugenol has local antiseptic and anesthetic properties, and it has high antioxidant, antiproliferative, and anti-inflammatory activities with potential roles in alleviating and preventing cancer and inflammatory reactions. Number 34, limonene is widely used as flavor and fragrancy. Additionally, it is listed in the FDA as one of the active components of dietary phytochemicals that appears to be protective against cancer. Number 35, B-linanol is the major antimicrobial ingredient of the lavender oil. Number 36, alpha-cubibine. I didn't find any report on the therapeutic application for this one as well in this preliminary analysis. Number 37, dermacrine D. I didn't find any report for this one as well, but oils with this molecule are stimulant, antifungal, antimicrobial, antibacterial, and antiviral. Number 38, copaic is antioxidant, and the essential oils with it are antimicrobial. Number 39, alpha-farnesene has significant anti-inflammatory and anti-allergic properties, and thus, in the past, essential oils containing farnesene were used for the same purposes that aspirin and ibuprofen are used today. Number 40, beta-caryophyllene is potentially useful in treatment of infections, osteoporosis, and it exerts anticonvulsant, analgesic, mild-relaxing, sedative, and antidepressive effects. So alpha-humulene has antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and antibacterial effects. And the last one, number 42, delta-cadenine, I didn't find any report on the therapeutic application for this one as well in this preliminary analysis I did. So, and as we can see, the list of therapeutic effects of the components found in the Beehive air is absolutely amazing, right? And so which help us understand why people feel so great after breathing the air of the beehives. As I said before, I hope to be publishing a systematic analysis on this very soon in collaboration with pharmacological researchers. And for sure, this preliminary analysis leaves us with a great level of excitement for developing the clinical trials on behavior therapy that we are currently working on. Let's move on. And to finish this presentation, I'd like to say that actually remind all of us, including myself, that when we are practicing behavior therapy, it's important to approach the hive not only with a mindset that considers the hive as a powerful natural source of therapeutic molecules. The beehive is a cosmic temple, and the bees are very sensitive beings that can operate miracles. Several ancient civilizations recognized the bees as sacred beings because they knew they could be inspired by the bees and not only use the products of the hive to heal the body, but also they had the bees as a reference of enlightened beings. So if we know how to do it, we can access a whole source of health, inspiration, and consciousness inside the hive. So I encourage we all to approach the hive with an open heart and with an increased sense of gratitude for the bees, a gratitude for all they do for the planet and for all they can do for our health. Always remember that, in addition to provide powerful molecules, substances, and products, bees can also operate miracles. And that's the end of this presentation. Thank you very much for watching it. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions or if you are interested in trainings or any kind of collaboration. My partners and I are currently planning a series of clinical trials on behavior therapy, and the idea is to develop an international multi-center clinical study on the efficiency and safety of the behavior therapy. Currently, we are also looking for supportive partners. We also need additional beehive air therapy sites to conduct the trials. And we are also looking for establishing academic partnership to conduct these studies, as well as get some fundings, etc. So you can find me by email at tiago@pranahiveom.com, or you can visit our website, pranahiveom.com. Thank you very much for your attention and time. Blessings.